Well, welcome to another episode of Exploring Woodstock History. Well, we've been waiting for the snow to start today. It's about 2 o'clock, so it's been snowing for a little over an hour or so. And the pandemic schools, they have the day off. And I do empathize with one of my grandchildren who was a little frustrated. They were lamenting that, whoa, we've got a snow day with no snow. So, but now hopefully by the end of the afternoon, they'll have some snow to go out and play in. When our kids were small, my goodness, what good fun they had on snow days. The neighborhood was home to about a dozen kids back in the 80s, and the kids would build snow forts in the huge piles of snow that was left by the town plow guys. They were just through here. We've got about an inch, and so they were plowing the inch. Yep, our kids would be out mostly the whole day on these kind of days, and when they would return home, I was responsible for a mound of wet snow pants, coats, scarves, gloves, and boots. But that was just all part of the fun. It just went along with it. I don't recall that we did any regular visits to what we call the Como sledding hill. When we did go sledding down there, we were usually with a group of families, and somebody always had a toboggan, and the kids were always using those metal saucers. Now, I mean, you probably don't see them anymore. I can still see everybody laughing and yelling as we would build up speed and we'd start to go down the hill, and you're always hitting a couple of bumps, and invariably the smallest person always got bumped off, and then there you go, they're left laying there on the hill. But I do remember that I don't recall any bad injuries from any circumstances. So I'm sure the Mower kids that grew up on Maple Lane, they were all outside too. This is in the 40s, 50s. You go outside, you're outside all day. You're making snow angels, or perhaps they're even sledding. They could sled down Deanie's Alley, and then you make a little bit of a right-hand turn and you go right down Sled Hill. That's how it got its name. We're going to go down to Sled Hill. I'm even heard stories of people that were sledding down Mill Hill Road in the wintertime. And, there wasn't as much traffic in the 30s and 40s. So people that grew up in Woodstock in that era, the pre-World War II era, they reminisce about ice skating on the Tannery Brook. So you would be under the bridge, and you'd go probably a little bit north and west. You'd go around behind the building that we know as the old Forge House. I think there's a new store in there called Maverick Road. It's where the cupcake store is. And they would follow along up there, and it was enough water that if it froze over, you could have a good skate back there. Plenty of people tell ice skating stories about up behind where John Pike lived. It does sound like a beautiful but kind of tricky kind of an area to go ice skating. It sounds like it's really a swamp, but because people tell stories about having to trip over roots and everything, and they called it Fairyland, and everybody has a warm, fuzzy memories about that area. Some of you probably share that are listening. And many of you, I'm sure, remember skating at the rec field where the volunteer fire company guys would come, and they would set up a temporary rink, and then they would flood it, and we'd go ice skating. You could go at night. There'd be a bonfire. Was the sheds where you'd have hot chocolate and hang out. It was a lot of fun. My brothers and I had a blast on snowy winter days. We would, again, be outside most of the day. We would go sledding in the road. We lived near a hill on Chestnut Hill Road in Zena, and there weren't that many cars. Somebody'd stay at the top of the hill, watch for the cars. We'd go up and down, all the neighborhood kids. We also had a very steep hill that was right by our house that you could go down that, but that was less fun because it involved bumps all the time. So depending on what kind of mood you're in. One of my favorite recollections of wintertime in Zena is ice skating on the Zena Reservoir. My mom was a very good ice skater, and she was confident of her ability on the ice. And so we would have a stretch of weather that it was like 10 degrees Fahrenheit or colder. Yeah. And so then when she was confident that the reservoir was properly frozen over, she would pile us in the car, and then off we'd go. Well, we were little. I was probably 10 or 11, and that makes my brothers about 8 and 6. We would get out on the ice. We would acclimate to this beautiful wide expanse. So it was usually a bright, clear, sunny day that we were out on the reservoir. My brothers, they were little. They'd pretend they were hockey players. They'd swat rocks or whatever they brought along back and forth with makeshift, hockey sticks. I was just happy to be able to skate in a straight line and practice turning to the right or practice turning to the left. I don't think any of us ever got up to our mom's ability of skating. She could skate backwards. She was very, very comfortable on the ice. Well, we knew that our time on the ice was coming to a close when she would shout, "Okay, let's play Crack the Whip." Well, the four of us would all join hands. Mom would lead us further out into the frozen reservoir. Then she would start, and we'd all be holding hands, and she'd gain some speed. I'd hear the ice groan and crack under our weight. But my brothers, now they're on the end of the line, they were pretty focused, right? They were on the end of the whip, and as Mom built up speed, she'd make a little bit of a turn, and then she'd stop, and off they'd go, flying out. One of them had let go, and they would go further off. You'd hear the laughter echo as they got farther and farther away. It was a blast. We had a great time. Every now and then when I drive down the Zena Sawkill Road and I go to visit the resident eagle that hangs out there, I think of those memories, and it's kind of fun to have that to think about and be in my background. So how about you? While we're exploring Woodstock history, do you have any Woodstock memories that you'd want to share? Take care.